a land as old as time itself. India is where the past and future collide in a maelstrom of contrasts and contradictions. Yet at the heart of this great diversity lies the very essence of Indian life.
The two most important things in life are sex and food. And without food, you can't have the other.
The food of India is more than just a cuisine. It's a melting pot of different cultures. It's as varied as the 1 billion it feeds.
50 homes in one village, 50 different ways of cooking rice. There's no limiting you as to what you can go to. If you can taste it, I can give it to you.
The cuisine of India tells the story of this country's rich history.
From all over the world, a whole lot of things have come to us. The genius of any people is how to adapt that into and make it their own.
Rooted in culture and transformed by its people, Indian cuisine has defied definition. To understand it is to truly understand this great nation. That makes defining Indian cuisine a challenge.
When you're talking of India, you're not talking of a small territory. You're talking of a land that is of continental proportions. You are also talking of a process of intermingling that has gone on for thousands of years. You are talking of different culinary traditions, you're talking of different cultural traditions, language traditions, and to describe all that and try to put it into a frame that this is Indian is very difficult.
But amidst this complexity, there is something that binds the varied tastes of Indian cuisine. Something once worth its weight in gold, an ingredient that is the heart and soul of Indian cuisine.
I think what really gives an image to Indian food in toto are the spices, because the moment a person goes to an Indian restaurant, the first thing they say, is the food going to be spicy? So Indian food is bound together with all its different combinations of spices.
Centuries earlier, this area was bustling because of an entirely different commodity.
And I think Malabar has gained importance all over the world because of its spice trade. And the sea routes were quite connected with Cochin. So that's one reason why the entire Indian Ocean trade was based on spices.
Still lingers.
if you're talking about 400 years ago, Cochin and the Kerala coast was just bustling with trade. Kerala was known as the kingdom of spices.
Professor Ruby Maloney specializes in the history of medieval India and the Indian Ocean.
In the 17th century, everybody rushed in. The English East India Company, the Dutch VOC, and the French also realized that this is a very, very lucrative trade.
As the demand for spices heated up, the Europeans sent expeditions to forge trade routes and gain access to this lucrative commodity. Some even waged wars over it. Kerala's strategic location between the Spice Islands and wealthy European markets was one reason for its rise in importance. The other was its tropical climate. God's own country, as the locals call it, was ideal for the cultivation of spices. The king of these was a local variety, a humble green berry that inflamed the desires of the West.
All of them wanted a monopoly of the spice trade, and pepper was, as the Dutch said it, the pepper was the bride around which everybody danced.
Pepper is a parasitic climbing plant growing wild in the hills around Cochin. When ripe for picking, pepper berries turn red, then black when sun-dried. Apart from using it in cooking, ancient Ayurvedic texts also extol its healing properties. So valuable was pepper in its heyday, it was dubbed black gold and was once used as actual currency. In England, pepper was used to pay rent, while bribes in ancient Venice would often include a pound of pepper. Cochin today may not be the heart of the spice trade, but spices are still very much a part of everyday life here.
This is the place where all the Indian merchants would be settled, selling their wares, sifting the pepper. And this is a warehouse where there's a big courtyard behind me, and pepper and ginger would be dried there in the sun, ready to be sifted and then graded and then sold.
These days, pepper is processed in factories like this. It may not be the black gold of centuries past, but it's still a valuable commodity, making up 20% of the global trade in spices. And as it has for thousands of years, Indian black pepper still travels to kitchens across the world. But oddly enough, in its place of origin, the use of pepper is often overshadowed by another fiery ingredient, one synonymous with Indian food the world over.
Indian food all over the world is known because of its chilies, because of it being so terribly hot. And chilies are not Indian. The Portuguese brought it to India. But we have absorbed it totally and made it our own.
Chili would become one of India's most popular spices, with many vying for a slice of this lucrative trade.
Business കുറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ് പക്ഷേ അത് വേറെ സ്ഥലങ്ങളിലായിട്ട് ബിസിനസ് കൂടിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്.
Chili was brought to India in 1498 by Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama. So successfully was it absorbed into local recipes, its foreign origins were eventually forgotten.
From all over the world, a whole lot of things have come to us. The genius of any people is how to adapt that into and make it their own, which we have been able to do very successfully. But to then claim that all this is Indian is nonsense.
Over centuries, many foreigners have come to India, and cities like Cochin still bear signs of their legacy. They came for spices and wealth and left behind traces of their culture and religion, forever changing the face of India.
I'm fond of saying that if we didn't have cardamom, maybe the Europeans wouldn't have tried so desperately to discover us, and maybe we would still not have been discovered. Because it is these spices that brought them here.
The spice trade first brought the world to India centuries ago, altering the essence of Indian cuisine, and it's still evolving. India is once again attracting the world to its shores. Only this time, it's not for exotic spices, but an educated, tech-savvy workforce. And foreign influences are changing not only what Indians eat, but how they eat it. This is Bangalore, the IT hub of India, dubbed the Silicon Valley of the East. It's attracted many of the world's leading companies. Educated and tech-savvy, thousands come here each year to be part of this new emerging India. But in the many back streets and alleyways of this bustling city, the traditional heart of India still thrives. This is where the locals flock to, hidden culinary gems that retain much of the color and flavor of old India. Auto rickshaw cab driver Ustad Said Arifullah Khan is a regular at one of these eateries. The food here is high carb, high fat, high protein, the food of champions, energy-giving, strength-building nourishment that Khan will need when he returns in the evening for something far more physically demanding. When the sun sets, the eatery transforms into a makeshift arena for an ancient Indian sport. This is where Khan and a handful of enthusiastic practitioners keep alive traditional Pelvani wrestling.
गवर्नमेंट भी इसमें मतलब एकदम बुझा दी है और हमारा के पॉइंट क्या बोलना मतलब इसका जो भी है हम लोगों को हेल्प होना चाहिए.
Pelvani is a combination of an indigenous form of wrestling dating back to the 5th century BC and a Persian sport brought to India by the Mughals. It's a sport that requires equal measures of skill and brute strength. This is where a wrestler's diet counts. The cooks here prepare North Indian cuisine, heavy meat flavors, thick creamy sauces, and aromatic rice dishes, cooked with spices, dried fruits, and nuts. It's the kind of high-calorie fuel designed for warriors like Khan.
पहलवान को खाने के लिए दूध की ज़रूरत होती है और उसको बटर मस्के की ज़रूरत है और मटन ये तीन चीज़ होना ज़रूरी है और घी.
This local Pelvani wrestling gym cum eatery has a faithful clientele of wrestlers and non-wrestlers alike. All helping to keep alive a slice of ancient India in a quiet corner of Bangalore. Away from the sweat and toil of ancient wrestling arenas lies the modern Bangalore the world can relate to. This is India's second fastest growing city. Each year, it attracts thousands of migrants from all over the country, and they all need to be fed. Ravi Thirumalal runs Evergreen Gourmet. It caters specifically to the burgeoning IT and tech industries.
The market is very, very big. It's a huge market. Because now that in Bangalore, particularly having seen the boom of the IT industry, so many people from all over the world have come and settled down here.
With this diverse workforce comes a range of tastes and preferences. Each day, Ravi's cooks use at least 13 kilos of spices, 250 kilos of rice, and up to 300 kilos of vegetables to create several regional cuisines.
In South India, you have a Tamil Nadu style, a Karnataka style, a Mangalore style, or an Andhra style. We have a blend of all these things. Depending upon the customer's requirement, we prepare the food.
Work starts at 3 a.m., so breakfast, lunch, afternoon tea and dinner can be prepared and delivered on time to hungry office workers. Like clockwork, 5,000 to 6,000 meals are dispatched to over 100 cafeterias.
Time is absolutely an essence because the industrial workers will get very short time for having their lunch or breakfast. Within that time, everybody has to be served.
The meals may be served Western fast food style in modern cafeterias, but they're all favorites from back home. In today's India, it's the old familiar tastes many still cling on to.
Fast foods have come to India in a big way, for example, KFC and McDonald's and so on. And they've taken over a bit of Indian food habits. But Indian cuisine is so strong, Indian food traditions are so strong, they're not going to get eclipsed by fast food or anything like that. So I think every home, whether people are rich or poor, or they belong to the elite class, or they belong to the working class, everybody, I think, is continuing with their culinary practices, and they're pretty happy with it.
From weddings to religious festivals, food in India not only sustains the physical body, but also has great significance for each of life's defining moments. India is a land of ancient spiritual traditions and the birthplace of one of the oldest belief systems in the world, one that dates back to at least 2000 BC. Hinduism. The significance of food in many Hindu festivals and rituals is as old as the religion itself. Specific foods are used during religious festivals to invocate blessings from deities. About 80% of India's population is Hindu, and the religion plays an integral part in almost every sphere of a devotee's life. On the outskirts of Mysore city in South India, a traditional Hindu ceremony is underway. A 24-year-old Samanvita is about to be married. In the tradition of arranged marriages, this is usually when bride and groom first lay eyes on each other. But the same drama is still played out in this modern-day love marriage. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Master Chef H.N. Yedunath leads a team of cooks in preparation of the wedding feast. The success of a wedding in India is often measured by the quality of the food served. So it's Yedunath's job to make sure each guest leaves satisfied.
ಮೇನ್ ಸಮಾರಂಭ ಇದಾಗಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ಅಡುಗೆ ಮೇನ್ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಸರ್. ನಾವು ಮಾಡೋ ಅಡುಗೆನೇ ಮುಖ್ಯ, ಅದೇ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಾಗೋದು. ಡೆಕೋರೇಷನು ಅದು ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡೋದು ಏನೂ ಉಳಿಯೋಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿದ ಊಟ ಮಾತ್ರ ಹೋಟೆಲ್ ಉಳಿಯೋದು. ಊಟ ಮಾಡಿದವ್ರು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ಬೇಕು. ನಾವು ಕ್ಲೀನು ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಹೆಸರು ಬಂದಿದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಅದೇ ಸರ್ ನಮ್ಮ ತೃಪ್ತಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಅದೇನೆ. ಇದು ಮದುವೆ ಮನೇಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಭಾಳ ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠ ಇದು.
Yedunath and his cooks are also Brahmins, the highest rung in the Hindu caste system. Although long outlawed, it is still practiced in some quarters. Tradition dictates only Brahmins may cook for a Brahmin wedding. Even the type of dishes served here and how they are prepared follow strict Brahmin codes. This will be a completely vegetarian feast, but not all vegetables make the cut.
ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರ ಅಡುಗೆ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅಂತಾರೆ ಸರ್, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಈರುಳ್ಳಿ ಬೆಳ್ಳುಳ್ಳಿ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಯಾವುದೂ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸೋಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಕೆಲವರು ತರಕಾರಿಗಳು ನಿಷಿದ್ಧ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಬೂದುಗುಂಬಳಕಾಯಿ, ಸಿಗುಂಬಳಕಾಯಿ, ಪೈನಾಪಲ್ ಅಂಥ ತರಕಾರಿಗಳನ್ನ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡೋಂಥದ್ದು. ಹುರುಳಿಕಾಯಿ, ಈ ಸೀಮೆ ಬದನೆಕಾಯಿ ಅಂಥದ್ದು ಮಾತ್ರ. ಇದು ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠವಾದದ್ದು ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಥರ. ಈ ಬೇರೆ ಮದುವೆಗಳು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಕೆಲವರಲ್ಲಿ ಈರುಳ್ಳಿ ಬೆಳ್ಳುಳ್ಳಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅವರು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸ್ತಾರೆ.
Food plays a prominent part in the Brahmin wedding ceremony for purification, fertility, and protection. A sweet mixture of ghee or clarified butter and sugar symbolically binds the couple together, nourishing their new relationship. A typical Brahmin Hindu wedding is at very least a 3-day event. And it's not uncommon for the guest list to run into the hundreds, even thousands. This means many mouths to feed, far too many for just one sitting, so the guests are served in shifts. As with many other South Indian celebrations, banana leaves are used instead of serving plates. Banana leaves are considered hygienic, as they're said to have antimicrobial properties. The meal is a balanced one according to Indian vegetarian tradition. Carbohydrate from rice, protein from lentils, iron from vegetables, and a bit of sweet dessert. A spread made all the more appetizing when served on the banana leaf. Many Indians eat with their right hand. The left hand is normally used for what's considered unclean tasks and should not come into direct contact with food. Orchestrating a feast of this size is no mean feat. It's something that has come with years of experience for Chef Yedunath. From serving the food to clearing up, it's like a factory production line. The entire process is repeated until all the guests are fed. Across town, restaurant owner Rajiv is headed to work for the lunchtime crowd. Rajiv is a devout Hindu, so a stopover at a temple en route is part of his daily routine. This is his restaurant, the Shivaji Military Hotel. Military hotels like this are known for their non-vegetarian cuisine. A curious contradiction, since many believe Hindus to be strict vegetarians. One story of how Hindus came to eat meat involves the army. To be effective in battle, vegetarian Hindu soldiers were ordered to eat meat. Some grew accustomed to the taste. Upon leaving the service, they patronized military hotels like Rajiv's.
ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಫಾದರ್ ಮನ್ನಾಜಿರಾವ್ ಅವರು 68 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಹೋಟೆಲ್ ಹಳೇದದು. ಅವರೊಂದು 40 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಹೋದರು ನಡೆಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ತಂದೆಯವರೊಂದು 13 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ನಡೆಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
The Shivaji's signature dish has remained mostly unchanged, mutton dum biryani. About 700 of these are served each day. The seasoned meat is cooked with aromatic basmati rice in a pot called a dum, which gives the dish its name. Hot coals are also placed on the lid, so the meat cooks slowly and its flavor infuses the rice. This is an Islamic-influenced cooking technique that is said to originate in the northern Indian city of Lucknow. The result is a dish that's enjoyed by all Indians, Hindus or otherwise, and contrary to popular belief, meat has always been a part of the Hindu's diet.
Try to imagine what did the vegetarian eat, because 80% of the vegetables and fruits that we eat today did not exist in India 400 years ago. Vegetarianism actually comes within the fold of Hinduism about 1,000 years ago, with the influence of Jainism. Within Hinduism, there is no tradition as per the scriptures that Hindus have to be vegetarians.
So for some Hindus, vegetarianism is a practice that has evolved over time. Today, more than half of India's population is vegetarian. But regardless of preference, there is more to sharing a meal than just the simple act of eating.
Food binds people together socially, brings families together, helps families to grow closer together. So food is a kind of a social construct. Eating together means being happy together.
The festivities are nearly at an end. For Master Chef Hechan Yedunath, the wedding is a success, with hundreds of guests leaving satisfied, fed in the best traditions of Brahmin cuisine.
ಭಾಳ ಪ್ರಾಮುಖ್ಯತೆ ಇದು ಕೊಡೋದೇ ಊಟಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಅಲ್ವ ಸರ್. ನಾವು ಅದೇ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮಗೊಂದು ಸಂತೋಷ ಸರ್.
Like his father and grandfather before him, Hechan Yedunath helps keep Indian culinary heritage alive with every wedding feast. A celebration of the old ways in an India that is fast embracing the new. India is a land that has long been visited, traded with, and invaded by foreigners. And this has left an indelible mark on the country.
In North India, I think we have had an almost non-stop stream of people coming from roughly around 2000 years before Christ or even a little earlier, and each one of them would have brought their food with them, their styles of cooking. And that is what has gone into developing the kind of cuisine that you have now in large part of North India.
India's north was a gateway for many foreigners, amongst them the Mughals. They ruled India for 3 centuries, dominating an area of over 4 million square kilometers. Their Islamic influence is still evident in much of North India. This is the Zinatul Mosque, built in 1710 along the walls of Old Delhi. 88-year-old Babu Khan comes here to pray every day. Babu Khan knows Old Delhi's many streets and back alleys intimately. He's also the guardian of a centuries-old cuisine. Because of chefs like him, the food once favored by India's greatest rulers can still be savored here. Babu Khan is the third generation of his family to keep the Islamic cuisine of the Mughals alive.
ये सिर्फ मसालों की या हाथ के कारागरियाँ बनाने की उम्र मेरी 12 साल की थी। मैंने अपने अब्बा से वालिद साहब से सीखा, मेरे अब्बा ने अपने अब्बा से सीखा, इसी दर्जा बदर्जा सीढ़ी ब सीढ़ी।
From kebabs to the now famous tandoori style of baking, these were the secrets of the royal kitchens of the Mughal court, handed down from generation to generation.
मेरी उम्र 12 साल की थी। मैंने अपने वालिद साहब से बाप से सीखा, उन्होंने अपने बाप से सीखा, फिर उन्होंने अपने बाप से, तो इसी तरह सिलसिला शाही ज़माने से चला रहा है ये।
Mughaliya cuisine is the result of the blending of Indian recipes with what the Mughals brought from Western Asia. Rich and aromatic, it is considered one of the most lavish cuisines in the country.
ज़माने नुस्खे ना हमारे बुजुर्ग वही नुस्खा इस्तेमाल करते हैं, वही मसाले हम अपने बनवाते हैं, मशीन में पिसवाते हैं, तो वो इस्तेमाल करते हैं।
With years of experience in Mughaliya cooking, Babu Khan is the keeper of its secrets for the next generation.
अगर हम ऊपर चले जाएंगे, मर जाएंगे, तो ये लड़के बनाएंगे, तो इंशाल्लाह नाम रोशन रहेगा अल्लाह की रहमत से। ठीक है ना? ये तो आना जाना सबका लगा ही रहता है। ऊपर जाते हैं उम्र के हिसाब से चले जाएंगे, जब भी जाना होगा।
Mughaliya cuisine is the marriage of Indian and Mughal culinary traditions, a fusion that created a legacy still savoured across India today. The Mughals were not the last foreigners to leave an enduring impression on this country. A great Western power came to India for its riches and would stay for 200 years. The British filled the vacuum left by the waning Mughal Empire, building grand outposts across the country. They curtailed the power of Maharajas and went on to establish what was considered the jewel in the British Empire's crown. The British gave India what was to become its national obsession, cricket. It also influenced many other aspects of life in India. They may have left, but their legacy lives on in some unexpected places. In 1940, Koshi's was established by P.O. Koshi. This Bangalore eatery would become the place for the glitterati of the day. Prime ministers, royalty, movie stars, the rich and famous. Today, his son Prem Koshi continues in the fine tradition of serving not only Indian cuisine, but classic Western favorites.
This is how it's done in the old days. Big old pot of roast chicken getting ready. Army guy waiting, roast chicken goes in plate. Then goes in the roast potato, right there on your side, and all yours to eat, sir. Some of the stuff that's really famous is the roast chicken. We do roast mutton. And somebody was here from London the other day and said, Prem, this is exactly like my mother cooks.
Koshi still packs them in, but these days the clientele is mainly Indians looking for a taste of nostalgia, and they're spoilt for choice.
Right. Okay, very good, fine. I still take recipes from my friends that come from abroad. They bring me a lovely dish they've tasted somewhere. We try it, we let our customers taste it, and then, whoa, next thing you know, it's on the menu. So that's why we're at 800 odd items still. Okay, ella nalla irukano podum, spice podum. Enna pandranga? Okay, very good. Salt poda. Okay.
Koshi's ever-evolving menu upholds the Indian culinary tradition of absorbing and adapting foreign influences into its own.
Thank you for coming and blessing us on a very daily basis. Okay? You all take care. Thanks a lot. Bye.
But this is not only happening in restaurants. They've also reached the kitchens of India's traditional households.
Very white onions don't taste so nice. Just let them get a hint of golden brown.
Culinary skills that were once passed on from mother to daughter at home are now picked up in an entirely new way.
On a flat surface. Just see that it's nice and colorful. We have the red carrots, we have the green broccoli, we have the yellow corn. So it's
Formal cooking classes like this are introducing foreign cuisines to a new generation of Indians.
For binding, you could either add cottage cheese or paneer to it. See, everybody is very experimentative, very adventurous these days, whether it's food, whether it's fashion. Everyone, you know, the newer generation is wants to try out everything.
Globalization has brought new ideas and influences to India, and it's likely to have a profound effect on the future of its cuisine.
To be added. You always should taste it. So we'll just taste a little so to see that the salt and pepper is fine.
If we see Indian food as something which is not static, something that has constantly been getting transformed, it will get transformed. It has got seriously transformed over the last 400 years.
Centuries of foreign influence have undoubtedly helped shape Indian cuisine. But in this country of over 1 billion people, food is not only about taste. It's also about feeding the masses. Today is the birthday of the founder of Sikhism, Guru Nanak. It's a day of celebration and prayer at Delhi's largest Sikh temple, the Gurudwara Bangla Sahib. By midnight, over 200,000 people would have come to this temple, many for prayer, many more for food. And feeding them requires a remarkable act of community spirit.
कोई 10, 20 हज़ार 25 हज़ार गुरपुरब वाले दिन लाख तक भी आ सकते हैं.
An army of volunteers from all walks of life help prepare the food. It's prepared in the temple's kitchen called a langar. Few are experienced cooks, but they work under the guidance of Chef Langari.
नहीं एकदम तो नहीं आए, पहले आए थोड़ी सेवा की थी, आस्ते आस्ते काम सीखा, फिर पूरी इधर दी जिम्मेवारी मिली. ऐसे गुरु महाराज का हुक्म होया सी इत्थे आ गए हैं और पिछले 10-12 साल तो लंगर दी सेवा कर रहे हैं.
Such acts of service for the less fortunate is also called langar and is an integral part of Sikhism.
ਸਾਡਾ ਇੱਧਰ ਪੂਰੇ ਲੰਗਰ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ ਉਸਨੂੰ ਵਰਤਵਾਣਾ ਹਰ ਆਦਮੀ ਨੂੰ ਹਰ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਰਵਿਸ ਦੇਣਾ ਹੈ ਕੋਈ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੀ ਹਰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਪੂਰੀ ਕਰਨੀ ਇਹ ਲੰਗਰ ਪਵਾ ਕੇ ਨਾ ਇਹ ਭਾਂਡੇ ਖਾਲੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ
The volunteers have their work cut out for them. To feed the thousands expected, preparations begin at 5 a.m. The food is vegetarian. Grains, pulses and thin sauces made from mixed spices and vegetables. Simple food that's made with care and devotion. Sikhism is one of the youngest of the world's major religions. Evolving from Hinduism, it was founded in the 1500s and today has some 23 million followers in India alone. A quick prayer of blessing over the food before it's served. Then it is time. As the masses pour in, everything should run like clockwork, but it sometimes doesn't. Thousands more wait their turn, while the crowd inside begin their meal. In times like this, the many differences of India's diverse people are often forgotten over the sharing of a simple meal. It is said that India is a land of contradictions, of the old and new, the constant and changing. This is certainly true of its cuisine, so much a part of the everyday lives of its people.
Food is central to our existence, and therefore the whole lot of rituals that are associated with eating, not only in India, all over the world. You know, you have to say grace before you eat and all that, etc., etc. Why does it begin? Because it began because people realized that without food, there is no life.